Hey, Drew here with Plot First, and I'm going to be reviewing Ozark Season 3, which just aired on Netflix yesterday. This is going to be a non-spoiler review, but I'm going to do a spoiler review once I finish. I've watched the first 5 episodes now, and I can say without a doubt that this is probably going to end up being the best season. Now, if you liked the show in Season 1 and were really excited to watch it, and then got a little bored with it in Season 2, I feel like this is a welcome return to form. That's how I felt about this show. I felt like Season 2 things sort of started to fester and it just started to spin its wheels. I actually felt that it started to go that way near the end of Season 1. I know a lot of people didn't feel that way, but I know that a lot more people got tired of the show with Season 2 because I think it just didn't really grow. It didn't adapt. It didn't go in new directions, but this season has given it a lot of room to expand, and it's gotten into the full promise of the conflict that was always there between Marty and Wendy. And I think that that is really what makes the show work, is the battle between those two, because no antagonist in this show is as interesting as the two of them going at it. I will admit unashamedly, I hate Wendy. I cannot stand her. I sometimes find myself gritting my teeth when she's talking. But I know a lot of people really like her and are fans of the character. And I'm probably being unfair because Marty is really no better than her when it comes down to it. And a lot of the things she does, he does as well. He hasn't had anyone killed that I can think of. But, it's a matter of degrees in a case like this. But before I go into further details, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel while you're here, and you can see future videos and you can maybe see the spoiler review when that comes out. So without further ado, getting more deeply into why I think this season works better in ways than Season 2, I've been rewatching Breaking Bad lately with my wife. She's never seen it. And it's interesting, she hasn't had the most positive response to it. But one thing that I've noticed in comparing these two shows, and I know that Ozark is its own beast, but there are definitely shades of Breaking Bad here. And something that struck me recently, I often hear Wendy compared to Skyler, and I don't think she's Skyler. I actually think that she's Walter White. And the reason I think that is because when you look at the character of Marty, he isn't Walter White. When he gets into a situation, his first thought is, how can I come out of this alive and then extricate myself to protect my family? Sure, he's got an ego and sometimes that gets the better of him, but he's not the one pushing them deeper and deeper into the problems that come with being involved with the cartels and with all these villainous elements. It's Wendy that's pushing that, and he's the one who's trying to put the brakes on because he knows that the further they get in, the harder it's going to be to get out, and the more problems, the more dangers that they're going to be faced with. And, I've heard her compared to a Lady Macbeth type, but I honestly think, again, I don't think she's Lady Macbeth. I think that she is a full-fledged antagonist. I would say she may be the true anti-hero of Ozark, and Marty is kind of along for the ride in some ways. Now, reviewing a show partway through a season is always dicey, so I may come back to some of these points with different opinions later, but I think at this point that something that has struck me as I was looking at the Breaking Bad comparison is at any point in the narrative, you know that Vince Gilligan and the writers of that show always had a very, very, very clear picture of who Walter White was, what he wanted, and at what stage in his descent into evil he was. And here, I'm not actually sure that the writers would be able to articulate that with Marty. Now, I think they could articulate that with Wendy, because with her, there's a much clearer escalation. And I think that Marty, because he isn't quite as clear-cut of a character as Walter White was, I feel like he's stronger when he's moving in opposition to Wendy, when he's kind of clawing, trying to not get dragged through the door into deeper waters. But I feel like a strength of the show is that it has a lot more going on than Breaking Bad ever did. Breaking Bad had a very cunning simplicity to it that I think helped it to sustain itself over time. I think once you get too many plates spinning, sometimes you drop plates, and there's always the danger of having that jumping the shark moment. But this season is so fast-paced, with so much going on, with so many things you can see going wrong very quickly, and so many, situations developing that could cause problems for the birds, that I think it's really, really entertaining constantly. And that's a really impressive feat, considering that these are 10 really, really long episodes. So I'm impressed that they managed to make every scene count, that they're constantly making things develop for maximum impact. As to the performances, I feel like Jason Bateman is doing a rock star job. I mean, I think he is the reason that most people watch this show, even if I think it's Wendy who's driving the plot more. I think that he's not quite himself this season, and I'm not sure if I like it. There's a reason for that, but I can't really get into it without spoilers. But they've done some things that have caused him to have to, Jason Bateman as an actor, to have to act very, very differently and have to portray some different things that he hasn't had to do in different seasons. And I'm not sure I like it, but I think it's keeping the character from getting stale, and I do think you have to do these kind of things if you want your characters to stay fresh and interesting over many, many seasons. I'm not sure how long this show will go. I could see it ending pretty satisfactorily after about 6 seasons, if I had to guess. But I wouldn't imagine that it would go much longer than that. But we shall see. As I said, I don't like Wendy, but it's not because of Laura Linney. Laura Linney is doing a great job. Her acting is fantastic. I think she's probably giving the best performance of any actor in the show. I just don't like the character she's playing. The kids are not integrated that much into this season. Overall, you feel like they just don't have that much to do. There's a new character played by Tom Pelphrey, and he's playing Laura Linney's brother, and it's just pretty unconvincing to me that they would be related and that we would have just now been hearing of him. I think his performance is fine, but I feel like it's the only reason he's her brother is because how else could you get him into the plot? And I think they're using the fact that he's a little bit unstable mentally as kind of a ticking time bomb, which I think is a little bit demeaning to people who struggle with mental challenges. But we'll see where that goes. It hasn't exploded yet, but I have a feeling it's going to, not too long. Emmy winner Julia Garner, she's great. I wouldn't say she's doing much more than she's done in the last 2 seasons so far. I still really appreciate her relationship with Marty, but we're not getting to see too much of that. Most of this season has had her pairing off with the female characters more and having a kind of a little bit of a bickering feud with Joseph Sikora's character, who's a new addition. And I can't say too much about him without getting into spoilers, but let's just say that he's kind of playing against type. He's not playing a very intelligent or, in my opinion, a very threatening character. He kind of seems weak. And this season, if it had a theme, and this is a little frustrating to me as a guy, I'm not going to lie, it seems to be women running over weak males constantly. I think that theme plays into the plot lines featuring Janet McTeer's Helen. And to me, the messaging here seems a little bit forced, a little bit too strong, in my opinion. But I realize, and I feel like this is true, that a lot of people are probably rooting for Wendy because they enjoy seeing a strong female character finally getting to do the things that we've been seeing characters like Tony Soprano and Walter White do for years. This isn't a very diverse show. There is a new addition of an African-American FBI agent who isn't a very well-known actress. I can't remember her name. But I like the character, and I like the way she's portraying her. And the thing with the character is, though, when you have 2 FBI agents that are both African-American and both completely virtuous, I feel like it's playing into that old trope that, African-American characters in movies and TV shows have to be perfect in order to be included because you're afraid of saying something negative about them, and they just don't really exist in the same sphere as the other characters. They're not allowed to be characters in their own right. And I hate to talk about diversity, but I think it bears mentioning that 2 of the directors of the first 5 episodes are women, and they direct 3 of the episodes together, and 2 of the episodes are directed by Jason Bateman, as a side note. So it's cool to see women directors on a show like this where nothing about it necessarily screams, this is a female project. It's not, what you would traditionally expect female directors to direct, but they do a bang up job, so it's very exciting to see them being given these opportunities. So overall, I think Ozark Season 3 is very strong, probably the strongest season yet, but we'll just have to see how the last 5 episodes goes. I've heard there's some very, very shocking things in the last 5 episodes, so I'm hoping that I haven't seen nothing yet. I'm hoping that what I've seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg of the excitement that waits. It's a thrilling show, very, very tense and dark, and I think that it's finally escalating things and taking them in a new direction. So that's exciting to see. But what did you think? Let me know in the comment section. And if you want to see the spoiler review that I'm going to do as soon as I finish, please subscribe to the channel so that you can see more videos like this one.